I've got a question about spirit guides. I don't know if I'm not sure about the term. It can be used, I suppose, in different ways, but essentially, um, either ancestors, people that we know who have passed, other kinds of sentient beings. Do you, Brent, or anyone else, have like any opinions on how Shakti and various ways of Kundalini connects us with those advisors and friends that we may not be in corporal contact with?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting and exciting theme, but it can also be really confusing. I don't have a, a fully formed understanding or response for you, and I don't think anybody really does. I think it's something that kind of goes beyond our ability to fully comprehend. It's got to do with, multiple dimensions and timelines and things like that. It's kind of like this idea of, reincarnation not being this linear thing that happens in a chronological way, but actually something happening sort of in a parallel and whatnot. So it's pretty out there and hard to really wrap our minds around it. But what I've come to understand is just like how us here are apparently all separate individuals with their own separate consciousness and different skills and gifts, there are also various other beings that are, like you said, non-corporeal, non-physical, interdimensional, spiritual or whatnot that have different qualities and gifts and skills and missions and purposes. And some of them, of course, are meant to support us, often in very direct ways. So many of us here may relate with different spirit guides um, in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes they appear in visions, in dreams. It's in a little visual sense. Sometimes we hear them. Sometimes we feel them. We get a nudge from them. Sometimes people report that their guides use synchronicity to speak to them, or they use angel numbers or numerology to communicate with them. So there's so many different ways that communication can happen with this guidance beyond our mind. So I had an experience in which I was meditating, and in this meditation, I was wide awake, not dreaming, sitting upright. I was transported into a sort of other place, another sort of reality or something like this. And in this place, appeared before me was the spiritual teacher, Matt Kahn. Now, Matt Kahn, of course, is alive today. I really appreciate him. I've benefited so much from his teachings. I absolutely love him. And so in this encounter, he had given me a sort of profound spiritual teaching. And when I came back into my room, I was really confused because I thought, how is Matt Kahn meeting with me? I thought only dead ascended masters and gurus could meet with you after they've left their body. But I'm like, Matt is still alive. So how is this working? This is very confusing. So I started thinking, is Matt sitting in his house, somewhere, thousands of miles away, thinking, okay, I'm going to go and visit this guy Brent in meditation and give him a teaching? Is that what was happening? I was really confused. Anyway, this I sat with this question for some time, for like about a year or so, and eventually at a certain one of his events here in Toronto, through the flow, I was able to ask him this question. I said, Matt, this is what happened to me. Can you break it down? How does this all work? Did you consciously go into your own meditation and meet me in a sort of mutual location? What's going on there? And so what he said was, no, no, it wasn't me specifically, Brent. He said, what happens is our higher self or our consciousness or whatever it may be chooses certain archetypes that it knows we find safe in order to present messages and guidance to us, knowing that because we feel safe with them, we'll receive it without doubt. So for some of us, it may be our ancestor, our grandparent, for example, who we really had a great relationship with. We trust them. We know that they would never harm us. So the universe or our higher self says, okay, we'll manifest as the archetype of the ancestor, of the grandparent, to relay this powerful message because the person will feel safe, they'll trust it, they'll integrate it, and they'll apply it immediately. So for me, Matt Kahn was this type of person for me. I fully, feel really safe and really loved and appreciate all of his teachings. And so the universe said, this is a very efficient way to get this message across. Brent won't question it. He'll just integrate it and apply it because it came through this archetype of Matt. So that was what Matt himself told me. So this was relieved this burning question. And so I think that there are a variety of ways that the message shows up. through characters that we would feel safe with. It can also just be energetic. Energetically, there's a transmission of peace that overrides our doubt and we receive the message. So many of us may have an encounter with, say, Christ. So we feel the Christ energy, the loving, compassionate, forgiving energy, and we immediately integrate the message. Whereas if it were to come through a figure that we don't recognize, we may say, I don't know who this was. And so therefore I don't accept the message so clearly. However, some people have encounters with spirit guides that they don't recognize. Like, say, for example, somebody who's never seen or heard of the Hindu deity Ganesh, right? The elephant uh, god deity. And so they have a sort of vision, and this elephant being shows up and gives them a message. But with the arising of this elephant being, there's a deep transmission of peace and love and understanding, which overrides their doubts. They integrate the message, it feels right. And then maybe sometime later, they come across a picture of Ganesh and say, holy shit, that was the guy who showed up in my vision. So I think there's just so many different ways that it happens. We can tap into connection with our own guides. We can ask if there are any guides out there. I'm open, I'm receptive, I'm listening. I'm willing to engage with you in whatever way you feel is appropriate, which may be directly, maybe through, like I said, angel numbers or synchronicity or visions or whatnot. For some, we also may just be called to a particular archetype. So for some, there maybe just naturally just have a sort of affinity towards Shiva or towards Ganesh or towards Christ. And you can just begin to communicate with them, relate with them, invite them, invoke them into your life, and they may begin to show up and support you in interesting ways. Some people relate closely with angels, like Archangel Michael shows up and these types of things. I haven't really engaged with angels, I don't think at all. Um, at some point, somebody with clairvoyance said there was a big angel behind me. I thought that was cool. They never communicated with me directly, but perhaps they're playing behind the scenes, keeping me safe, kind of directing me through the flow. I don't know. So some of them aren't here to interfere too much as well. At one point, I was speaking with some guidance and I asked, why are you here sometimes and sometimes you're not? And they said, look, we're not here to live your whole life for you. We're not here to do every last thing for you and tell you to go left, go right, have lunch now. Or they're like, only certain times we will give you certain insights, but the rest, we take a step back and we allow you your autonomy to unfold your life. And so that helped me as well to understand a little bit about what their roles are. They're not here to do everything for us. They're not here to always be very accessible as well. So those are some ideas. I hope I've given you something like that. And Hugo shares here, God is a shapeshifter. Exactly. Yeah. And we are all the different shapes of God up here. Yeah. Go ahead, Deborah.
Yes, thank you for sharing your experience. It seems to have always been part of my life, and there has been one particular person that I knew in this life, my a high school teacher who I just dearly love and miss, who shows up every now and then. But it mostly comes through dreams. Sometimes I speak in languages that I don't understand, and I've recorded them at night. And it often comes through when I'm composing music or playing music, especially if I'm just free flowing. Um, but somehow it feels like it's becoming more and more prevalent, and I'm wondering perhaps if this is part of a global or universal shift that we're becoming more aware and more in contact with the benevolent. So thank you for your recounting of that story. That's very, very precious.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you as well. And I think you're right. I think we are opening up to receiving wisdom and guidance from places beyond our mind. Put it in the simple way. And that could be through the trees, through nature. We're opening up to communicating with wisdom that's all around. Incredible. Yeah.